have TRD for Toyota, you have Mugen for Honda, you have Ralliart for Mitsubishi, Le Mans 24 hours, the GT1 class. This is in Japanese inline 4-cylinder turbo engine. It's not the VR38. If you're an R35 owner, VR38 DETT, the S1 spec, 2.5 million yen, which is this is what you want to see, RB26 blocks. But if you're not satisfied with that, buy this one then, the R2. It's nothing based on a normal road car at all. 146,000 yen. R34 GT-R shift knob is 17,000 yen. You can't come to this shop and not buy something for your GT-R, isn't it? Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of JDM Masters. And in today's shop review, well actually it's not really a shop, it is NISMO themselves. We are here at Omori Factory in Yokohama, which is right next to the Yokohama plant. This is a new facility that was built a couple of years ago. Now, the word Omori is a little bit confusing because it's an area inside of Tokyo, but they've shifted back to Nissan's native land in Yokohama, and we're going to go inside, so come join us. So of course, if you come to a place like NISMO, which is Nissan's motorsports and tuning factory, you got to bring a GT-R. So we have Japonic's R34 fully tuned GT-R. Not really sure whether there's any NISMO parts aside from this little badge, but we're going to go in and check, and there's a little nice shop which sells NISMO parts. Maybe he's going to get something, some emblems, seat covers, or whatever accessories. But it's really nice inside, and there's some display cars. It's going to look quite exciting. You can also buy various complete engines in different states of tune. And some of you who play Gran Turismo might be familiar and remember the S1 and R engine series. They're a new generation now, RB26, and also for the R35, VR38 DETT, and also some goods. So we're gonna have a look inside. Come with us. I think something's missing from this bumper. You got the GT-R badge, you got the Nissan badge. Something's missing. Let's see if we can find it inside. Wow, and we're here at the Omori Factory. Really nice facility. Nice and airy. You got the red of the Nissan NISMO racing theme. Oh, and look at what we have here. Wow, how do they fix this onto the wall? This is the 1998 or 99 Nissan R390 Le Mans race car. Not too sure if this is a replica, but it definitely is exactly like how it is. Probably a replica. And you can see here, yes, 1998, the Le Mans 24 hours, the GT1 class with a special racing V8 engine. And this was an interesting time for Nissan's motorsports history. So let's talk a little bit about what NISMO is, abbreviated as Nissan Motorsports International. It was actually a merger of two companies and wholly owned by Nissan Motors. In 1984, they decided to combine two companies which had existed to conduct their racing programs. The first one was called Omori Works, which has been around since the 1960s. There's not much of information about that, but according to official material, they started all of the early racing programs. And another company which also was used for racing was called the Omori Plant, and this was based in Tokyo, Omori Plant. So they decided to merge these two to combine the efforts in order to primarily compete in motorsports. And you can see here we have display of some iconic race cars from the past of NISMO's history. This is also cars that are taken from the Zama collection hall, which you can see in our previous video when we went there over here. And they do change these displays quite often, and pretty interesting. There seems to be like an 80s theme for their display. Right now we got the R30 Tomica silhouette Skyline, and over there we've got the similar silhouette Sylvia and a Bluebird, and we also have some GT cars. So obviously, it's a space where, if you're a Nissan or NISMO fan, you can come here, walk around and have a look at these cars. It's a lot easier to come here and look at these race cars. You can just walk in. Now, of course, this year with the COVID-19, you can only come here on Saturdays. If you live in Japan, you can maybe make an appointment. But the Zama Collection Hall is also another really highly recommended display of all their race cars and road cars. So if you're a Nissan fan, check it out. Now, on the left here, we have a display of helmets belonging to famous Nissan Works drivers. And top of the list here we have Masaharu Hasemi, who raced a lot of their early Group A cars. And the next celebrity we have is Hoshino-san, who famously raced the R32 Group A Calsonic car to victory. He was one of the best NISMO factory drivers. Kondo-san, Matsuda-san, and of course some GT drivers. We have Italian Kentarelli, hope I pronounced that properly, Hirate-san, and you can see like all these helmets were actually used by these racing drivers. And of course, look who we have here, Jan Mardenborough, who incidentally is also a contacting friend of ours. So we'll be talking with him next time, and I think his race car's right over there, the GT500. So you got a little bit of the new generation, but let's have a look also at this little display here right now. Let's go over to this side. You can see the silhouette body is nothing based on a normal road car at all. It's just a shell. This was the time of Group B, Group C style racing, where it's a aluminium top space frame with a racing engine still based on the FJ20 4-cylinder. Actually, it was the only time that a Skyline used a 4-cylinder engine with a turbocharger, of course, rear-wheel drive, and you have this 80s big bulging display. Let's look inside. You can clearly see how there's an aluminium tub, and wow, the switches, the big buttons, and those tabs. It is a real race car. But just to see that evolution of the motorsports race car thinking, going from this into a GT500 car, which we'll see over there. Look at the wing. It has all these really interesting but almost dubious looking extensions just for aerodynamics. Obviously the 80s thinking was just to try and put as many extensions as possible without really considering about the shape. But we've come a long way, and this is something that motorsports division of a manufacturer, so for example, you have TRD for Toyota, you have Mugen for Honda, you have Ralliart for Mitsubishi, you have STI for Subaru, and Mazda Speed for Mazda company. But the motorsports division is primarily focused on developing race cars, racing them, taking that technology, and then developing good parts, especially maybe engine parts, that goes into the cars that you can buy. Now, a little bit about how NISMO is perhaps a little bit different from Mugen or TRD. You can actually buy a complete NISMO engine, and if you have enough money, you could have perhaps almost the same spec as those GT race cars. The catalog of parts for NISMO is far more than the other Japanese aftermarket official makers right now. Actually, it's been like that for a while, and that's something that really probably pleases a lot of Nissan fans. This Omori Factory right is actually a customer tuning factory where you can bring your car and have it serviced, tuned, and fitted with NISMO engine. In fact, you can even have a fully restored, resto-modded Skyline GT-R, something a little bit similar to the Built by Legends concept that we reviewed in our video up here previously. But imagine having it done completely by NISMO. It's not going to be cheap, obviously, but that's something that you can get the manufacturer to do. I can't say the same for other manufacturers. But anyway, here's the Silvia S110 or 110 Silvia, 2 generations before the more popular S13. You can see here by the front, very 80s design, and same concept. It's just a silhouette car. So the silhouette means it's just the shape. Inside is a space frame, aluminium tub chassis. Let's have a look here. 1983, participated in the Fuji Grand Championship Series. But can you imagine this? 1,050 kilograms from a 4-cylinder, 4-valve DOHC turbo engine, 2.1 liters, 570 horsepower in 1983. A race car that weighs that light, and that's why you have all these aerodynamics. 55 kilograms of torque. These things are just absolute monsters. One thing that's interesting to point out are the rear tire size, 350 millimeters in thread, 19-inch wheels at the back, but 16-inch wheels in the front. Otherwise, I don't think it'll turn. So you can just see it's like a matchbox car, or even a bigger version of like a Cherokee. Very interesting. You can see the side exhaust here coming out as well. Impol, Hoshino Racing, and Hoshino-san. Inside, more of the same fare, the similar looking steam locomotive, boost gauge, and very, very 80s sort of shape styling. That's the radiator cap over there, I think.
Gear shift lever is on the other side.
That's interesting. In those days, like race cars, the Japanese manufacturers built the engine, but the transmission was usually from Europe. I think it could have been a German-made or any European made, which is originally meant and designed for left-hand drive cars. Your racing gearboxes were quite different, but you can see, they've made an attempt to push the lever onto the right side where the driver will be seated. It was the infancy of using wind tunnels to test for aerodynamic efficiency. But of course, there were limitations based on the body. You can see here that the line of the wing on the side is in line with the body. The overall body is square and quite high. So aerodynamics work in a way that it has to flow primarily from the front to the back. Because the body is square and blockish, it would be pointless to have it extended out to the sides. Whereas with new cars like that, you can see that the edge of the wing is also in line with the body, but there's better aerodynamics flow coming from the fender and onto the back. And of course, one problem with 80s aerodynamics is they just put a flat floor underneath. And in fact, you can see some comical videos, not really comical, scary, but cars actually take off because the floor is too flat. So you have an imbalance between drag and lift, so the car just sort of lifts off. So it can't be too aggressive on the top, whereas cars these days are able to mitigate flow, equalize the balance of airflow from the bottom of the car and the top of the car while keeping the downforce. It's just a lot of also computer CAD design. And you can see vents on the side. Look at the F1 cars now compared to the 80s. It's pretty much the same concept. Last car that we're going to talk about is a Nissan Bluebird. Similar silhouette concept. It's really strange that they have 3 different models competing in more or less the same category. I believe the engine of this is perhaps similar to this. And yes, it is the same LZ20B engine, exactly the same specs, 570 horsepower and 55 kilograms of torque. And this is the Bluebird Super Silhouette. So basically, 3 same cars with 3 different body shells. This reminds me of those RC cars that you just change the top cover. It's literally a real life version of that. But modern GT cars aren't actually that different. What you see outside on the body is just also a shell. But of course the inside, more high-tech, or well, new generation space frame with carbon fiber instead of aluminum. So this is the GT500 car, 2019. Guess what the weight is of this? It's even lighter than those silhouette cars, 1,020 kilos, but in excess of 550 horsepower. Now, interestingly, if you look here, this says in Japanese, inline 4-cylinder turbo engine. It's not the VR38. This is quite similar to also Toyota using the 4-cylinder 3SGE instead of the 2JZ in their race cars. Now, the reason is very, very simple. Better weight balance, lower weight, and it gives better turning characteristics. That one over there, 2016, same car. And let's see, yeah, it's exactly the same. It's just an earlier version. Recent race cars have this kind of swan neck design. that concept is now being used also for street tune. This is not only something that NISMO is doing, a lot of race cars are built this way. So what is really particular about the technology that goes into the road cars? In the next chapter, we're going to have a look at those things. This is fantastic. It's interesting. From far, you can see it makes the word GT-R, the emblem, but if you go close, it's made up of hundreds of R35 kids version Tommy car models. It's fantastic. Some are just painted red and the rest are left in the standard silver to create this little nice motif. And on extreme right here we have a VR38 DETT GT3 engine on display, and over here is the previous V8 used in the Super GT500. So as you can see, the race cars we showed earlier, they switched to 4-cylinder, but this was the previous engine, which was based loosely on also the Le Mans prototype. NA engine you can see from the individual throttle bodies poking out, very, very beautifully made. Carbon fiber airbox that sits on top of this. Nissan design with a European company. This is based also on the VK 4.5 here, so maybe it's also a little based on the V8s that are used in the CMAs. That seems to be relation V8 90 degrees. This is more interesting for R35 and GT-R fans. Perhaps the highest version that you can get, actually you can't get unless you're rich and you want to race a GT3 R35 car, buy a race team and race it in different racing around the world, or you can just play it virtually online, I guess. But the engine here on the outside, interesting, looks not much different from a road engine. It's what's inside. The pistons, the conrods, the crankshaft, the work done to the engine. And that's the next thing we're going to have a look at the engine display. But before that, interestingly, a couple of months ago when we came, there was a very, very special road car that was on display here. It's not here anymore. You can see in our reference videos right here.
And I come back, niggas tryna flex. Tell me that I'm lost and I'm back in the back door. Don't even wanna check. Niggas still wanna call it a day. Our coach, we ain't got shit to say. Talking to me like you wanted to stay. When they come back around and you still tryna play. Go and break it down for a nigga. Go and break it down, just a little head love for a nigga. But they steady playing games with a nigga. Steady throwing names for a nigga. One time for you.
Yes, it is the famous R34 Z-Tune or Z-Tune for some of you. Here is a scale model of it, and this was perhaps the most special, perhaps the holy grail of all R34s. Only 20 were built by NISMO. They bought used cars in very good condition and basically resto-modded it, but something was special about the actual road cars was that it had then GT500 RB26 engine parts, the block, the conrods, the crankshaft, everything. It had one-off parts, and only 20 were built. You can still buy the body parts, like the bonnet, the bumper, the fenders, the wing. And so if you're interested to do that, the NISMO shop here actually does sell them, and they have a little display. I'm going to check how much it really is. And by the way, you can see here in the very nice glass display, behind me here is the customer workshop, and as it is spick and span, shiny floors, clean, very much like a GT500 or even an F1 style garage. The three cars here on display, the gunmetal 34, 32 and 33 are their NISMO demo cars, fitted with either their S2 or R1 engines. And customers who live in Japan can bring their cars here for service and tuning. Another interesting thing that NISMO does do now is you can actually resto mod your entire car. You bring the shell and strip it down to the body shell, and remove everything and put new parts with a NISMO engine and a certificate and a stamp. This would cost in excess of 20 to 28 billion depending on the build, but it's basically a new car with NISMO's official warranty and plaque. And maybe this is actually a better deal than buying some low mileage, but you're not sure of the history, really exorbitantly priced used R34 GT-Rs now in the market. If I had the money, I'll probably go for one of these, restored NISMO cars. All right, and so we come to the more interesting part of the display in the NISMO Omori Factory. Here is a shop where you can buy parts and also goods, but before that, let's have a look at what the engines are on display right here. Now, if you're an R35 owner, VR38 DETT, the S1 spec, 2.5 million yen, which is 25,000 American dollars. So what is the S1 engine about? Basically, it's a fully balanced and overhauled version of the stock engine. Now, what's special about this is that if you look here on their website, we can see in the engine menu, the S1 engine's curve is the red line above there, the green is the 08, and the blue is the 17. So you got the power here, you got the torque here. This is a complete engine that when mated with some special parts, you have the GT3 race cars camshafts and the 2011 stock turbochargers with special ECU from NISMO and some Austrian parts, and you can actually get better response and power than the 2017 model, but with a much better feeling because it's even more finely balanced at a higher level than Nissan's already religiously fine one-man, one-engine built from the factory itself. So if you want to overhaul your engine, this is one upgrade option, the S1 package. Very good for R35 owners who want to keep the original feel, but something very close to the technology that comes down from their GT500 race cars. But if you're a fan of the Skyline GT-R R32, 33 and 34 range, this is what you want to see. RB26 blocks, which Nissan actually, interestingly, still sells these blocks new. You have the normal version, of course, upgraded versions will always use the N1 block, code name, the 24U. The 24U indicates that it's an N1 block. And the newer generation N1 blocks are actually much more upgraded than the older ones. The material is different, the casting is different, so much better quality than the original N1 blocks. So let's go through them slowly. Here we have the S2 spec, and as you can see here, it's spec'd at 400 horsepower, 45 kilograms of torque, which is, enough for the street. I feel that this could have come out from the factory if Japanese automotive makers didn't put the 280 horsepower limit in the 80s. So imagine if the 32 was made today, it would have come up with maybe 400 horsepower with NISMO parts. Obviously it would cost twice as much. But let's look here. This is a complete engine that you can buy from NISMO with new parts for 4.3 million yen, so 43,000 American dollars. Now looking at this beautiful black finish cam cover, but you still have the original intercooler intake pipe, the twin turbo emblem that looks like it's just on a stock car. This is beautiful. You have the original intake manifold, not a NISMO one.
Why didn't you put this one?
Because this is a street spec. This is an expression of how the factory should have made this engine in the first place.
I know, but you're getting S2, but not the NISMO.
Oh, no. Let's have a look here. You see here the special parts that we have. N1 block assembly, S2 camshaft, so that's already upgraded in order to get 400 horsepower. Intake manifold collector kit, a different fill tube, N1 pistons, which is a very important point. The pistons on the standard RB26, while they can hold a lot of boost, had some balance problems, and so the N1 pistons were lighter, enabling you to rev even faster. But if you're not satisfied with that, buy this one then, the R2. R standing for racing.
I mean, I would still buy this. This is $2,000 already. upgraded, plus 50 horsepower.
Plus 50 horsepower more.
Torque, and R2.
Well, you
and
have.
the price difference is not that much.
It's not that much. 50 more horsepower, okay, for, let's see, 400,000 yen more, which can buy you a used SEMA at these prices. Not that much more torque, but this, according to NISMO, is more responsive towards the top end. So you lose a bit of mid-range and lower end, which this engine gives you more drivability. This is more for the circuit. So let's have a look at the parts. You have the same N1 block assembly, but with a different turbocharger kit, R1 turbo kit, and you can actually see here it's different. Also with the same fuel tube, N1 pistons, R2 camshafts, but it's where the turbochargers are different. This is the N1 NIR spec with the 42AR Garrett turbochargers, and you can see it. They're different. They're completely different. Those are the smaller turbochargers, the same size as the stock road car, and that is the N1 size spec. Also came stock on the NIR. So just, you know, two different characteristics. This is more for circuit, obviously. This is the engine if you want just the a NISMO Nissan genuine parts engine block, and then you're going to tune it yourself. This is the bare N1 type engine based on the R34 type with the newly made material blocks, priced at 1.3 million yen. Whew, not bad, but you know, you get a new RB26, 1.3 million yen. So you take this, put your own HKS turbochargers, truss, whatever, intake manifold, and build it around a reliable N1 block base. So a thing to note that this is not for extreme builds. It's still a 2.6 liter. It's not like the HKS 2.8 liter, but it gives long-term reliability, and you ensure that, you know, even if you run it at reasonable horsepowers, you can still drive it on a daily basis. A lot of misconceptions about tuning cars with high horsepower. These will usually run into reliability problems, and it will break down, and it's not really drivable on the road. So something like this is very close to the road spec, which, you know, the manufacturer can guarantee for 200 or even 250, close to 300,000 kilometers if you're careful with the maintenance. So this is really, really cool. I would liken this to Spoon's complete engine or overhauled engine, where, you know, you get that extra response, but you also have that factory reliability. Now over here, so it's really interesting. You have two separate types, same price. This is for the R34 in order to fit with R34 accessories, and this is for the 32 and the 33 black head. I really can't see any difference, but yeah. Oh, just as extra information, for those of you who don't know how the four-wheel drive attester system works on the Skyline GT-R, so it's mainly rear-wheel drive, these cars. So you have it longitudinally placed like this, the gearbox is behind, and the four-wheel drive system is part-time. It sends a drive back to the front. And how does it connect to the front drive? This is the transfer case that is located in the oil pan. So the shaft actually goes through the other side, through the oil pan, like here, which makes the RB26 not suitable for drifting. So you have there's no baffles inside. If you have a Skyline GT-R, why would you drift? Get a normal FR Skyline. Now the last two engines on display here, unfortunately, you can't buy them because these are the legendary engines in famous NISMO race cars. Now let's have a look at the one on the right first. You can see here Reinik, which is the old engine maker for Nissan race cars. I believe they're called Raymax right now. And as you can see here from the display, R32 GT-R Group A, so images of the famous Reebok Calisonic Group A race cars of the day. This was the engine that was used on it, 500 to 600 horsepower. And looking here, it doesn't look that different from a standard RB26 from the top covers, but the turbochargers is where it's a little different. The specs is different. A little bit different from the N1 spec here, but because Group A has to be based primarily around the basic dimensions and specs of the road car, it's a homologation base. So Group A takes it a little further, there are little things inside that can be modified. Because it's a Group A car, you still have the standard oil sump, but if you look carefully, the oil sump design is also different. You see these welds for extra oil capacity compared to the standard one. You have the Atessa four-wheel drive system over here because it's still a four-wheel drive car. Interesting information about this, which you can see in our previous video of the Zama collection, where Josh talks about the legend of the Godzilla of R34 GT-R. Go check that out. Now, this engine over here on the left is of very, very special interest. R34 GT-R GT500 JGTC Japan Grand Touring Championship car, dry sump type. What is a dry sump? The dry sump means that the oil pan, usually which is underneath the engine, is separate from the engine. So if you look here, you can see how low the engine is. There is no oil pan compared to the normal car. There are tubes and a pump running separately to a remote located oil pan in order to always have constant feed. On race cars, this is done quite a lot in order to reduce oil starvation. GT500 only has 500 horsepower, a little bit less than the Group A, but if you look at the specs and the arrangement of the turbochargers, the placement is also further out. You can see the exhaust manifolds coming out. A very interesting design compared to the shorter ones based on the Group A road cars. Now, this is done primarily to give it more flat torque at the middle range, which is something important in race cars that have a very lightweight chassis. The clutch here as well, triple plate racing AP clutch. The size is, the flywheel is really small and light compared to the Group A, which is still based largely on a road car. Okay, so we're done with the engines. Now let's have a look at the products on display. There are basically three types of products that you can buy. Genuine Nissan products, NISMO products, and also goods like t-shirts and carbon fiber rulers, keychains and gloves and whatever. But of interest are the genuine parts that they also sell here at NISMO. Example here is an R34 stock steering wheel priced at 146,000 yen, which equates to 1,400 American dollars. Sorry, always bad with the conversion. That's really cool because a lot of other manufacturers have stopped production of their 90s cars, but Nissan still produces them alongside with NISMO parts. And here you can see a carbon fiber air cleaner box for the R32. Very, very pricey though. 526,000 yen for the 34 is a little bit more expensive. And if you get that, you have to put that together with this 275,000 air intake pipe. And I believe a friend of ours has that on his car, which we can take a look at next time. But carbon parts everywhere. Control module, intercooler, clutch, and of course these very iconic race-made NISMO LMGT4 wheels, 18-inch, 19-inch for the R35. These are BBS, and of course you need the aluminum racing nuts. Well, you don't really need them, but anyway, these ones are chromoly steel, sorry. So they're a little better than aluminum ones because they are stronger and they hold better. And if you want to extend out, offset a little bit more, be safer by putting these long hubbles. So it's really cool that they have everything for you to build it to NISMO spec. But if you're a real fanatic and you've got a bit of money and you want to spice up your car with more NISMO parts, more exclusive parts, how about these titanium strut tower bars for 165,000 yen. Now don't forget they're made of titanium, so they have the strength, but they're also very light. They're very, very nice looking. It's just extra jewelry for your engine bay. I also have harnesses if you want to go to the track, and also interestingly stock made OEM meters with NISMO spec, the full range 320 kilometers an hour range with the NISMO logo. You have the orange lettering, and you also have the white face dials, 11,000 RPM. You'll never go there anyway, it doesn't matter. But because they are digital, and in Japan especially, if you change them, you have to get them reset to the mileage of your car, which they don't really do here. But so this sort of throws off the actual mileage of the car. You have to.
They sign it.
They sign it.
They give you a paper.
And they authorize it, like yeah, it's added on. So that's a very, very important thing done by Omori Factory rather than you can do it yourself. But take note that this may affect the value of the car because of unverified mileage. New headlights, genuine parts for the R34, 215,000 yen. So that's what, $2,000? $2,000? This is of interest, and I think Japan is going to buy this today because it is a seat cover with it's made of PVC leather, and it's good because it protects your original seat condition and keeps the value of the car while you can still have some nice comfort for it. Here are shift knobs, and I find this quite interesting because the R34 GT-R shift knob is 17,000 yen, way more expensive than the NISMO aluminum ones or the Duracon ones, and definitely much more expensive than the 32 and 33 ones. That's quite a big jump in price. What's the reason? There is this aluminum piece in the center. On the left is the Zenki, the pre-facelift, and the facelift one, which is a little bit thicker. Overpriced, but then such is the GT-R 34 tax, I guess. But if you really want a new part, you can get them here. Why not spec them along with other accessories here? Here are stuff not for GT-Rs but for Juke, Leaf, March, NISMO S. All these are genuine parts.
Interesting, they have quick shift for the March and not.
Yes, it's a very interesting. Yeah, the original car one is just based on a normal manual one. The throw is very long. You just want bling. There's even more stuff here. Carbon fiber number plates, which only work for the Japanese number plate size, so not recommended for overseas customers. Carbon fiber, everything's about carbon fiber. If you really have money you want to spend on carbon fiber, it has to be those parts over there. If you want a carbon fiber and you want your car to look like the Z-Tune, this is the stuff that you have to buy. For a hefty sum of over, what, total price of 3 million yen? You can have almost 3 million. You can have the fenders, the Z-Tune, the bumpers, the bonnet with the vents, and that rear diffuser. The NISMO one is a little bit different from the V-Spec. It has the carbon fiber fins on side instead of the plastic ones. But that's quite a hefty price to pay. But you do get the Nissan and NISMO quality made. Over there is the R35 one. But if you can't afford the carbon fiber parts and you're just a NISMO fan, you can also buy t-shirts, jackets, bags, hats, towels, official goods, and you can see here. This one's really nice. It's a GT-R cap with leather pinhole on the tongue. Very nice, and it's considered a genuine Nissan part. Or this one perhaps. A little cheaper.
This is for kids. This is for adults.
Oh,
so
nice. You're buying a set.
Yeah.
Father and son. Very cool. Very cool. I don't have a GT-R. I don't have a son, so I'm not going to buy this. You can't come to this shop and not buy something for your GT-R, isn't it? So this is going to be the first NISMO part on your car, isn't it?
No way. I have tons of NISMO parts.
Oh, you do? Oh, I have to check it out. And if you must have some exclusive GT parts here, they even sell the GT Spec con rods, looking really racy looking, obviously. They're not cheap, 145,000 yen. And of course you need the bearings as well. A very important upgrade for the RB26 is the oil pump and the oil baffle plate set to put more baffles because of the front diff. R1 turbo kit priced at 3,460,000 yen. Brand new turbos with reliability and warranty from the factory, and of course the GT crankshaft to make all these other parts that go into the complete engines as well, but you can buy these parts separately along with the intake plenum. Lots and lots of different parts here. Fuel pump, which is also a popular upgrade and a must for RB26s. You have, of course, for all of these ranges and accessories that you need as well, spark plugs and the oil filter, and more genuine parts here which are very important, and they do need replacing quite a lot on these Skyline GT-Rs. Airflow meters, ignition coils, 8 crank sensors, belt tensioners, idler pulleys, the water pump, and even like reservoir tanks, NOx sensors. All of these things do fail constantly on the Skyline GT-Rs and some of these Nissans. So you can fortunately still buy them. They're not cheap, but it's very reassuring to know that you can have a one-stop shop right here at the Omori factory. So Japonic, you bought your NISMO parts, right?
Yeah,
So you got genuine NISMO parts on your car now?
I think so.
You think so? Wait, you said you had NISMO parts on the car? No, let me check. What the? Oh my goodness! You've got the intake plenum.
Yeah.
You said you didn't have any NISMO parts.
Who said?
This is really cool. HKS 2.8 liter V-Cam Pro. This is what is this? Midori titanium strut bar. This looks actually quite clean. Maybe it's a bit nicer than the NISMO. It's got a brake master cylinder as well. ARC intercooler. How much horsepower again?
600.
What? That's even more than the.
It's also N1 block engine.
It's also N1 block.
Yeah.
But that's also NISMO parts. Wow, that's fantastic. So guys, if you'd like to see us review Japonic's very special built Midori R34 GT-R, let us know in the comments, okay? You should have told me you got NISMO parts. So guys, that was a review and overview of the NISMO Omori Factory, and we have actually a few friends with 3 different types of Skyline GT-R and NISMO cars. We've got a 34 NISMO Fairlady, we have a street tune R35, and friends with the V-Spec 2 R34, and also normal one. Let us know in the comments which one would you like us to do a comparison and review and test drive, and also let us know which other parts in the NISMO factory you'd like us to go into more detail in the future. I will hope you enjoyed this series of factories and ongoing stuff. So until next time, take care and peace out.